we would like to warmly welcome you back for the second part of the regional parliamentary track taking place today online. I would like to invite Wakas Hassan, the regional lead for Asia at the Global Digital Inclusion Partnership, who will be moderating but also sharing a presentation for the parliamentary track session number 2 on governing digital platforms in the Asia Pacific. To come with me, as well as Honorable Padam Pariyar, Member of Parliament from the Upper House of Nepal, to also join us. We are supposed to also have another speaker, Tenanoia Simona. She's not yet part of the session, but for the sake of time, we would suggest to already start. If she comes later, in that case, of course, we'll have her come in and speak. Again, this is a very interactive session, so we encourage you, once Wakasa opens the floor for questions and answers, to really come in, ask questions, make comments, and make sure that we feed in some key messages arising from the parliamentary track into the summary report. So Wakas, I hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celine. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible. We did a sound check before. Well, good afternoon from this beautiful city of Kathmandu, actually. We were supposed to have this session in Kathmandu, but because of reasons, we are not here. But I am here because we just concluded the Asia Pacific School on Internet Governance yesterday. It went very well and very smooth. So one way or the other, at least we have some sort of representation in Kathmandu from the yeah. Anyways, so this particular session, we will be talking about governance of digital platforms, and we'd like to, of course, we have our honorable member of Parliament, Mr. Padam Pariyar, with us. And I would actually first like to request him to introduce himself before we have this follow the session flow, where I would present a little bit about the topic and have a conversation with the honorable MP. As Celine has already told you that Tananoya might join, but if she doesn't, with participation of all of you, we expect to have some interesting conversation around the topic. So, Honorable Padam Pariyar, if I can request you to please introduce yourself briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashanji. Namaste and good afternoon, all of you. So my name is Padam Pariyar. I've been working as the member of Federal Parliament for around 22 months. Before that, I am a disability rights activist. I worked with different national and international organizations to promote the rights of persons with disabilities, including their accessibility in digital platforms. Now I'm in a different role, promoting disability rights and accessibility. I think this much for the introductory part. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So wonderful to see that you have been a disability rights activist. Some of what we want to talk about today also refers to digital inclusion and making sure that the vulnerable groups are also part of this process, where we're talking about governance of digital platforms being one of the most important stakeholders in the whole process. So, Celine, if you could kindly share my slides. Right. So, just to start off, I am the regional lead for Asia at the Global Digital Inclusion Partnership. Next, please. We are a policy advocacy, a research insights organization, and we work to bring meaningful connectivity to the global majority. Uh, by meaningful connectivity, we also have a framework around it, which we have developed with ITU, which talks about not just access, but meaningful access, which means that there should be digital skills, affordability, and a safe online environment attached to the concept of connectivity, the traditional concept that we have. And we try to achieve that through three work streams. We do policy advocacy with the governments. We also have published publications around connected resilience, about women's digital empowerment, affordability, and many other areas. And to achieve all of this, we work with a network of partners. Next, please, which is spread across the world. That includes a lot of organizations that you might already have been interacted with. But this is the network that we have, and if you would like to join our network or work with us, you can easily reach out to us. Next, so coming to the topic, the first thing that we wanted to establish was what is actually the need for platform governance? Do we actually need it? And as we know, digital platforms are right now the core of almost everything that we do. Since internet has penetrated in our lives to the extent where it is shaping our economies, our lifestyles, it is fundamentally a necessity that we cannot ignore. And decision makers, particularly the parliamentarians, are at the center of this discussion. They have the power to introduce policies, to amend laws, and to make sure that this governance that we're talking about here is rooted in the inclusivity principles. Um, but we also see that the governance is uneven in a way. Uh, it is mostly reactive because the platforms, of course, progress at a very faster pace than the policy can catch up. And that is also one of the reasons that this conversation that we're having about the governance of digital platforms, this particular conversation takes a bit more time than it should, because we always lag behind when it comes to technology because of the essence of multi-stakeholder dialogue and the governance process itself. They take a bit of a while. So the new angle that now we have is the AI. AI is now, of course, one of the major areas of discussion. It is not just about how AI is penetrated or making our lives easier, but is also about how it is influencing our decision-making processes, and it is also influencing how we operate socially, economically, and with each other. So Asia Pacific, the region that we are here, and this is an Asia Pacific IGF, uh, the potential for this particular region and the impact of these and the impact of platform governance is not just something on a policy level, it also has an economic and a financial impact. The figure that you see on the screen is actually just for the ASEAN region. So for the Southeast Asian region, the digital economy is expected to reach somewhere between one trillion to $2 trillion by 2030. And if you add other economies in the region, that number is of course a multiplier of 1 trillion by at least 3 to 4 times. But the multi-stakeholder policy making, it tempts or it envisions to balance the public interest with private innovation. So that's where the need of platform governance is need to be rooted in play. Next, please. So let's just see that what are the key challenges then? Uh, First of all, there are fragmented regulations and there are different national priorities. Some countries they prefer innovation over sovereignty or these things or other things like that. And that's why we see that there is no regional cohesion when it comes to platform governance. There is also a very limited insight on AI decision making, what kind of algorithms and the algorithm bias or the AI bias that we talk about. We don't have much visibility for that. So that's why the governance challenges are becoming more complex. Uh, we also understand that there is a need for national sovereignty on data, but we also need to exchange data with other countries, with other jurisdiction and other platforms and other organizations. So that adds another dimension to the challenges of platform governance. Um, I think the key challenge for me, being from a regulatory background myself, is how to balance the regulatory intervention so as to not to stifle the innovation, but to enable it and to support it. That is always the key challenge that a regulator faces and the policymakers also faces. And I think the honorable MP that we have with us today can also resonate with that. Uh, we also need to build the capacity, and there are coordination gaps within the ministries of a particular economy and their jurisdiction. So in terms of, because the digital platforms are so cross-cutting that there are different dimensions and different ministries that their work falls into. So who actually takes care or who takes the lead? That is also some of the challenges that the governments usually face. But in the end, I have the goal is to have a transparent, rights-based, and innovation-friendly governance. For any forward-looking economy, this is the goal to have for platform governance when they're trying to overcome these key challenges. So, moving forward, what we can do about it. Uh, Next slide, please. Right. Uh, Before that, we also want to see what is the impact of this on digital inclusion. Being as an organization where we emphasize on digital inclusion, and also for the fact that the APRIGF also advocates a lot on digital inclusion, uh, there are these impacts of this platform governance that we're trying to achieve. On the positive side, a smart intervention can boost inclusion, it can boost competition, and also enhance consumer trust in services. Uh, and that particular trust can also lead to more benefits for the women and vulnerable groups, as the Honorable MP has also just stated about disability. So these vulnerable groups, under a well-governed digital environment, can actually lead to better empowerment opportunities for these particular from the platform governance that we see. But on the other hand, compliance is a costly business. Uh, with more compliance measures and uh, more regulatory oversight, it may have a significant impact on the smaller players. So that has to be balanced as well. And the AI bias and the moderation, it can unintentionally silence marginalized voices, as we have already seen in some of the cases, in some of the countries where AI-based systems have not been able to give an equal space to all of the stakeholders on. So coming back to the key message, that inclusion is it actually requires concrete rules. It is not just a rhetoric. It needs continuous backing and commitment and dedication from the policymakers and from all other stakeholders as well. It is not just something that we keep on saying, and we don't follow it up with a concrete plan. So, moving forward, this is pretty much what I wanted to set the scene for. But there are some regional insights and key references for policymakers. The slides might be shared later on. So, if you want to see a few other references on this or key resources on this, these are some of the references out there. So, I'll stop here. And I'd like to turn towards our honorable guest. And I would just like to start off with a very basic statement from you, sir, that how actually digital platform regulation, as you being as a member of parliament, it can facilitate or contribute to a more secure and trustworthy environment.
It's my turn, right? Question?
We can hear you.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Hashan. So honestly, I haven't prepared at all. I'm in the middle of a meeting, and I had to join this. So I'm with the bare hands. So whatever it comes in my mind or my experience, that I would like to share with you all. And I'm sorry, Harshan, that we could not meet last week, though we were in the same hall. Is it In the beginning, what I would like to share is the digital platform governance is tremendously important, not only for the other people, but also for the persons with disabilities because of their, specific concerns for their access and inclusion. Beyond the disability perspective, it is much more important for the common, citizens of the country, as well as the government to properly regulate and properly, keep it open to free their voices. So in terms of in that light, the government or the state may need to take certain measures to regulate or to facilitate its governance system. I think you guys are also well aware of the fact that in between that, tussle, we had changed movement last month, and we have certain, changes in the governance system as well. So it has a very tremendous, importance in terms of its management. As an MP, what I can say is we need to keep it open for the citizens. Since this is not this country-specific phenomenon, it is also the global, phenomenon. We are all, globally connected through the digital platforms. That's why this has to be also considered while we are making the policies. So we have to also think about the international practices and international standards. So these are the theoretical aspects that we need to consider. While I'm talking from the Nepali context, so there are two different ideas among the policymakers, political party leaders, or the state authorities, that we have to be a little stronger, or to be a little regulate strongly the social media or the digital spaces, so that there would be no such they would be less criticized. Let's say that way, they would be less criticized. But there is also other voices that we should be open in terms of expressing their opinions through the digital different platforms. So the conflict between these two different lanes, two different ideas is happening. I guess it's not only in Nepal, but also it happens globally. So we have to find the very rational solutions in between these two lanes. So as you might know that we don't have the parliament, meaning the House of Representatives at the moment. So we only have the National Assembly, and by the Constitution, only the National Assembly may not be able to formulate the policies for the country. So I'm not sure whether we would be able to come up with the social media bills sooner. But once we have the election in few months, then we would have the both parliament sessions, and then we would be able to promulgate that social media bill and other pending bills. So in short, the policymakers, particularly the parliamentarians in Nepal, we are very much flexible to come up with the flexible social media social media bills. So in that context, maybe in few months we need to sit again. And there is also one more need that the parliamentarians, the policymakers, also many times the adequate and the up-to-date information about how we should regulate or monitor the the digital platforms. So in that aspect, we may also need to capacitate the policymakers, and that's how we can come up with the accessible and inclusive digital governance idea. Let me stop over here at the moment, Ashan.
Thank you so much, sir. I think, first of all, it is actually, I think, better that you have not prepared, because we would love to have a parliamentarian speak from the heart. And you're definitely speaking from the heart. So I think it could actually become more interesting conversation, candid conversation with you. So thank you so much for these points. I think what you have just mentioned is something which resonates with all governments around the world, particularly the South Asian governments, because we they face same kind of the challenges. My own country, Pakistan, that I belong to, is also grappling with the same kind of issue. Uh, I think what you just mentioned uh, about how to have this balance between regulation and also making sure that there is enough freedom of expression and open and secure internet. That is the key question which the policymakers face. Um, what do you think in that particular context, since there are different voices around this issue having their own different stance, uh, what kind of cooperation do you think between the civil society, between the platforms themselves, between the governments, between the operators, and particularly the youth in Nepal, do you think what kind of a mechanism would work if we want to go forward on this issue? Let's just have an example of Nepal.
Mhm. I think some kind of some kind of mechanism there where the digital stakeholders, the government and the policymakers, three of us could sit together, could talk together, and could learn from the international practices, and can also think about our own context, and suggest the government or the particularly the governments that so this is what we want, this is what is in practice, and this would be the best guidelines or best policies that we need to address or we need to promulgate. So those kind of regular discussions, regular meeting, kind of also capacity building, kind of exposure would be really helpful, to have the better policies. At the moment, I think from the capacity of the government might have done few, such kind of interactions, but that might not be sufficient. So if the civil society organizations working in the digital accessibility or digital rights and the federal parliament and the concerned government ministry, if we can work together, we can that kind of mechanisms, that kind of sittings, that kind of collaboration would really be helpful to have a similar and better understanding about the international practices as well as our own concerns. So that would be one idea. At the same time, we may need to have separate interventions or separate collaborations to hear the voices or the needs of the particular, particular communities. Let's say how accessible and how inclusive are the digital platforms for, let's say, for the women women who are from the Karnali provinces, or the Dalit, Dalit women, or the Dalit persons with disabilities from Madhya provinces. Those kind of intersectional issues should be also, come in the front. Generally speaking, those kind of, voices are not properly heard in the common, sharing platforms, or particularly in the government, sharing. So if we can have specific collaborations with those, traditionally marginalized communities, and then that would be more, fruitful. And since this is also connected with the tech, so we need to also have a good good consultation and get feedback and suggestions from the experts, digital experts, so those kind of, specific groups, specific government institutions, experts, and right holders should be consulted well, and should be, should interact each other, and should have a common understanding and common, way forward for the accessible and inclusive digital platforms. I think this should be some of the way out that I would suggest.
I think this is absolutely perfect, if I may dare say, because we as internet governance practitioners or enthusiasts, this is exactly what we preach about as well. What we want the governments to do is to have that kind of an inclusive policy development process which listens to all voices, all stakeholders on the table, find a common way forward, so as to agree on the regulation before introducing the regulation itself, and then trying to, amend it or to adjust it to the voices. And the fact that you mentioned about listening to the voices that are not commonly heard, that is also the essence of the inclusive policy development process that you have just referred to. And I think that kind of a process, inspired by the global insights, or consultations with the digital experts who have an experience. In fact, for example, the EU's Digital Services Act, although that might be, it has some that kind of insights that can be used by the developing nations as well to, come up with a plausible solution on this. So this is wonderful to hear, sir. I'd actually now like to turn towards the audience to see if we have any questions or comments, and or if anybody would like to just uh, share any of the perspectives. You can just raise your hand, and we will give you the floor. For now, I don't see any comment or any hand in the chat. Oh, there is one. Okay. Oh, that's you, Celine.
Yes, thank you so much also to Parliamentary for sharing all your thoughts during this parliamentary track. Basically, I also wanted to share with all of you here in the chat our output document that we came up with at the Global Internet Governance Forum and its parliamentary track. This year, it was about the topic of building digital governance together, but the parliamentary track at the global level was more specifically actually around topics such as freedom of expression online, so automatically also touching upon digital platforms. And if you may, I'm quickly going to share my screen also to show you a little bit and go through some of the findings, or let's say outcome that parliamentarians came up with during that process. For information, there were over 100 members of parliament and parliamentary staff taking part in this parliamentary track. And here, this is really like a guiding document also for members of parliament. So for instance, if you deem it useful, would really invite you to bring it back also to fellow colleagues of yours. Here, starting, for instance, the paragraph number 2, to call upon parliaments to lead efforts to promote information integrity and to counter also digital manipulation and spread of misinformation. I'm just mentioning that because under that specific paragraph, you'll also find the calls that the members of parliaments came up with. For instance, also to implement robust accountability mechanism for digital platforms, including but not limited to legislative mandates, establishing algorithmic accountability and transparency standards also for digital platforms. More specifically, there's another paragraph also on digital platforms to call upon them to uphold their roles and responsibility in ensuring information integrity here as well. So without wanting to take too much of your time, I just wanted to say that is a very interesting resource as well that, for instance, members of parliaments, but also others could look at, and how that document was put together, not only from members of parliaments, but we also had some consultations with experts to come up with these findings. So I hope that this is some useful resource, and please let me know in case you have any question.
Definitely, I think it's a wonderful resource. And as we already see, at least from the government of Nepal, from the Honorable MP that we have here, that they would like to build some capacity within the government and to use some references. I think IGF's output document on this particular issue could be very useful. Right. So I don't see any hand or comment. So, sir, I would turn back to you. Just, I would like to have your perspective. That have you from your government's role, or are you aware of any kind of dialogue that you had with the platforms themselves, on how receptive they are to this kind of governance? We have seen in the past, we used to see a very hard stance from the platforms on such initiatives, but now we do see that they sort of have softened their stance, and they do also talk about some governance framework. But we are yet to achieve anything closer to it, at least on a regional level, in Asia, or in particularly in South Asia. So. Do you see that, do you see any, have you engaged with them, or are you aware of any stance or any conversations or dialogue that your government had with them?
Hashan, the context is a little different here in Nepal after the gendered movement last month. So we don't have the House of Representatives. That's why the election has been already called upon. So we all are focused, and then we do have an interim government, and so we are kind of all focusing to have an election in 5 months. So this kind of policy making process is not in the priority. I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, the government, neither the government nor the other stakeholders, they do have priority in making the policies or discussing on those aspects. But in between that, at least what I assume is at least we can have some discussion with the concerned ministry on how we can move forward. So at least we can start with the proposed bills, since the bill is already in the National Assembly, we have already provided our comments and suggestions, amendments for the amendment of the bill. So we can we can discuss on that so that we will be keep on moving. But the most priority goes to the election. That's what I think, but I don't know how does the government or the minister would like to take it up, but that's what I think. And it also depends upon the stakeholders, organizations like DRF and other organizations, how they would be collaborating with the ministries. And that also depends on those kind of initiatives. But within these 3 to 5 months, there is hopefully there is less chances for coming up with the policy formulations.
Yes, so the bill was actually something that I was trying to refer to, because I believe that uh, once these kind of bills are put forward, it is not just an internal stakeholder consultation that takes place. There are certainly comments and stance by the platforms themselves on such bills when they are introduced. Uh, and actually, again, would refer to the example of what happened in Pakistan as well. There were comments from the platforms, and there were engagements with them as well. Uh, but coming back to the original point that you made about and being your area of expertise, having a disability right, being a disability rights activist, um, and your extensive experience in that field. Uh, do you think that the platforms, that how digital platforms have been able to provide an opportunity, or sort of an economic and social opportunity, to the person with disabilities and to other vulnerable groups? This kind of governance mechanism, do you think can build more trust and open more opportunities for these kind of groups? Or do you think that a restrictive or a sort of a stronger regulatory policy framework can probably hamper it for those individuals, because there would be more need for governance, more need for platforms to be held accountable, and that may stifle investment or innovation in the field as well?
I think the digital platform governance is definitely the one of the growing working area for the government. So government should be working on that. But at the same time, this the digital accessibility, the use of social media has already been the day-to-day life of the common people as well. I mean, I remember there is one lady with a physical disability, and they have a small business making the local pickles, and and she is widely using the social media for her marketing of her product. So and I had got chance to interact with her, how the Facebook and other social media has been helpful for her to reach out to her customer and promote her business. And she was really excited to use those kind of platforms. So so there is a lot of and then we do have a couple of such good examples as well. So there are ample of such opportunities through the accessible and inclusive social media as well as the digital platforms. But at the same time, there is also kind of risks of because people will be kind of will get the misinformation and disinformation from the same platform. So in certain cases, the women who are illiterate, the citizens who don't have good, access, or the citizens who cannot, who don't have idea whether this is a deepfake video or photo, or whether it is real or not. So those kind of people will be at risks of manipulating by those groups, or those information. So the governance, the digital governance should be also thinking of those aspects. And in other, there is also another area where we need to also think of is, there are certain certain groups, certain communities, certain sections of citizens who don't have the access to digital platforms. So we need to also think of how we can promote their accessibility in terms of using the digital platforms. And the last point is, from my side, is that there are digital platforms, but which are not accessible. There are a couple of government as well as the private sector websites where there are ample of informations, but these are not accessible for persons with visual disabilities, or many other persons with disabilities, or many other citizens who have language related barriers. So those kind of digital platforms should be also made accessible, so that they will get information on the same basis as other citizens gets. So that is also the case of the fundamental rights of the citizens. So we need to think on those aspects as well.
Yes, that's, I think, a wonderful point. With platform governance, it's not just something that from an accountability perspective, but from an inclusion perspective, the governments can actually, develop such frameworks where where accessibility of the platforms becomes a mandatory or a preferred requirement for these platforms to comply with. So I think that's a wonderful point where the platform governance can actually bring about or facilitate more inclusivity for women and other vulnerable groups. Right. I don't see any other hand yet, or a question or a comment in the chat. If that's the case, uh, Honorable MP, may I kindly request you for your closing statement, maybe closing remarks, and then we can close the session, and we can then move to the closing. Please, sir.
Thank you, Harshan and IGF, for giving me this opportunity. So as I already told you that I was not prepared at all, to speak over here. Maybe I could not fulfill your kind of expectation as well, but in summary, the accessibility and inclusion of digital platform has become the global phenomena. It's the part of our day-to-day life. So the government has to be well aware of this new come-ups, and has to hear the voices of the people, and to make the flexible policies, particularly from the Nepalese context, since we do have a little bit immature democracy. So the government should be kind of more flexible in terms of in terms of regulating the digital platforms at the moment. So as an MP, I would be voicing those lines with the government, and I would be also speaking up to make the digital platforms more accessible and inclusive for the traditionally marginalized groups. So these are and whenever the house would be opened, I would be definitely taking lead or the kind of speaking at the house to make the bills more accessible and inclusive for all the citizens. So thank you for giving me these opportunities, and would really love to be in touch and contribute and learn from your wonderful platforms. Thank you, Ashwin and Salinji. Thank you, all of you.
So first of all, I'd just like to state that, this was supposed to be a panel discussion, but turned into more like a fireside chat. But the way you have spoken and the kind of commitment you have expressed, I think this is sort of an example, I think, for other MPs on how to actually think of these issues from a positive mindset while also keeping your national interests in check. So it has been absolutely wonderful to have you and to have this open, candid conversation and to see that kind of commitment from a government MP towards internet governance's inclusive principles. So I think this has been wonderful. I think the only just to close it off, I'd like to say that uh, the governance of platforms is not something it's a complex issue. But the only way that internet governance community and the UN advocates uh, uh, to address those complex issues is through open and public dialogue and a multi-stakeholder dialogue. And with your personal commitment to this principle, I'm sure that the government of Nepal and the next government of Nepal would greatly benefit from minds like you. So thank you so much, sir. We'll close this session here, and I'll hand it over back to Celine for the closing. Thank you so much.
Okay, namaste. Namaste. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much also to Wakas, to you as the moderator of this session. So just to let you know, we took note of all the very good points that were done also in this session, of course, also the previous session. We will publish a summary as well as the slides and the recordings on our IIGF website, and that will serve as input for future references of either regional parliamentary tracks or also at next year's global IGF parliamentary track. All in all, I would now like to hand in and give the floor actually to Amrita Shuduri. She was also providing opening remarks, but she will also be the one closing the IGF parliamentary track here at APR IGF. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Celine, and thank you to all the parliamentarians and others who kind of spend their Saturday afternoon, morning, or evening attending it online. And thank you, Wakas, Jennifer, and Sunny for your presentation, and Honorable MP Paryar sir. I think, as Jennifer mentioned, this is a conversation which has just begun. In APAC, we need to have more conversations. And if we could have more diverse voices coming in and joining in the conversations, it would be more meaningful. We are a bit shy at sometimes to share our viewpoints, but again, these are open, safe platforms where you can share your views. But perhaps next time we could have those discussions. And may I also take the liberty to invite you to participate in the APR IGF sessions, which begins tomorrow, 9 a.m. Nepal time. You can watch it on live stream, or in case you have registered, you can participate in the sessions. They are normally interactive sessions. We do have the co-facilitators of the WSIS review process joining in at our town hall tomorrow. And there is a stakeholder discussion. In case you have registered, you could participate, which is on 14th early morning for us in APAC, in Nepal. And with that, I think, Celine, I don't have much to say. I would say, please be engaged at the Global IGF or in your national IGFs or youth initiatives, if you could encourage them, be part of it, that would be super great. And please do be connected with APR IGF and with the IGF Secretariat as the single point of contact. Thank you, Celine. I think in case you want me to say something else, I could, but I think that's it from me. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Amrita, for closing the regional parliamentary track, and we hope that next year we will all be there again in person. So enjoy the rest of the sessions, explore the program of the APR IGF. Both Jennifer and I just shared the link in the chat, and we wish you very successful conversations, discussions, and also meetings. Thank you so much for joining.